Hi, welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox. You may have seen from the title, General Election or Election 24, number 1. Over the next 42 days, because it is 42 days until the election is over, we will be looking at many aspects of all the parties. So do hit subscribe, that massively helps the channel, and really do hit like, that is particularly good. YouTube don't really like political channels and we keep getting pushed down. And especially when there's an election on, it's very divisive for them. And so if we're going to get the truth out, I need the good help from you wonderful people. So hit a like and hit subscribe if you're yet to subscribe. Now, it is day one. Politicking goes forward from now. And on the very first day of the election race, it's really bad news for John Swinney and the SNP. If Swinney had a single hair on the top of his head, he'd be pulling it out as we speak. Because the Greens say they are going to stand in 31 seats. That, of course, would help diminish his vote share. Only yesterday, of course, we looked at Alba also standing up in extra seats as well, further pulling away some of the votes for the SNP. It now seems that it is destiny for the SNP to lose this election badly. How badly, of course, is up to the wonderful people of Scotland and tactical voting. And I have a story about that later. Let's have a look at why the Greens are about to screw over Swinney and why he will not be kingmaker. Here goes. So the Scottish Greens don't care about SNP election hopes because, of course, as I say, they are going to be launching lots and lots of candidates across the country. But also, John Swinney is dealt another damaging double blow. And that's because Anna Sawar, the head of Scottish Labour, have said he refuses to work with him. They will not be entering any kind of deal with the SNP, regardless of how many or how few seats they get at the election. Don't blame him. It means the SNP are out on their big fat backsides. There is no power sharing. And if they're not going to do power sharing at Westminster, they probably won't need it anyway. But they most certainly won't be doing it come the Holyrood elections in 2026. Swinney's finished. He just doesn't know it yet. Unless maybe he does. Who knows? But we all see it. We all see that Swinney is gone. He's dead man walking. He's brought in to lose this election. He didn't expect the election to be happening quite so quickly. But we know why. And again, I'll be doing the story on that fully later. It's because the letters were flying into the 1922 committee. And Sunak, rather than admit that he was unloved and unwanted, like a turd on your shoe, called the election so he could walk out and say, well, I fought and lost, never mind. Rather than I was rejected by my own people. What an ego. Anyway, Lorna Slater said that the Nats' former government partners will stand in at least 31 seats across the country, while Labour has ruled out any chance of a deal with the party. And there's Swinney now, and the poor bugger doesn't know what is coming his way. It is a torrent. It is an absolute tsunami of defeat. And he still thinks he's hopeful. He says, look, I'm pushing, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do it. You're not going to do anything, John. You're going to lose, and you're going to lose big time. John Swinney and the SNP have been dealt a double blow on the very first morning after the general election was called. Labour have ruled out any chance of the First Minister being kingmaker at Westminster with the party ruling out a coalition. Yeah, imagine that things don't go according to the polls and the plans, and somehow there is a Labour victory. They're the largest party, but not quite a majority. Labour would rather suck up to the Lib Dems, I think, rather than the SNP. They'll go into some kind of informal, presumably, relationship with them, or possibly a more formal one like the Conservatives did. But they certainly won't be inviting the SNP to help run the whole of Great Britain. That's the thing. If you went in, if they relied on them at Westminster, you would have an entirely Scottish party that was reliant on breaking up and dependent on breaking up the UK, running the UK. And that is a weird thing. That's why Labour certainly won't go into coalition with them. Co-leader of the Greens, Lorna Slater, said they would stand at least 31 candidates across the country, While the Greens typically hold poorly in general elections, a few hundred votes could be the difference in several key states. Seats across the country. States is later in the year. Miss Slater told BBC Radio Scotland Good Morning Scotland programme, having Scottish Greens in the room at every hustings, at every media event, means that the climate and nature emergencies, there's no emergency, get a look in, because without us they tend to get forgotten altogether. So much gets forgotten, you know, but that's because you're very, very forgettable, I suppose. Asked whether there is a concern that the Scottish Greens standing in a greater number of seats might split the independence vote, she said it's kind of neither here nor there. They know they're not going to win. It doesn't matter to them. And if they can punish the SNP for what the SNP have done, that will be right up their boulevard, won't it? Ms Slater said the SNP's fortunes are a matter for the SNP, the independence movement, and it should be and is larger than any one political party. So support for independence has been around half the country for a while now. Now, this for a party that says that they're pro-independence, and yet they've come out and said they'll work with unionist parties because power and money supersedes any kind of ideological demand. As far as the Greens are going, they like power, they like money, they don't like being made to look fools. Unfortunately, the universe has decided otherwise. Asked whether any deals could be done in areas where it's very tight between the SNP and the Scottish Conservatives, for example, and whether the Scottish Greens might step out of the way, she said there's been no discussion of deals. There are no deals of that kind. We have already chosen our candidates. And there she is, old Jeffrey, sticking her oar in and saying, look at me, I'm powerful, I'm wonderful, and I'm going to destroy the Greens. I'm going to destroy the SNP because, you know, vindictiveness. Meanwhile, Labour's campaign manager Pat McFadden told the same show that there was no chance of a deal with the SNP. Many Nats hope for a hung parliament, leaving Sir Keir Starmer needing SNP support to get the keys to 10 Downing Street. Keir Starmer would rather do a deal with the devil than the SNP. In return, they demand a second independence referendum. Won't happen. But Mr McFadden said, we are not doing any deals. The aim is for a majority. We know that's ambitious, but we want to bring stability to the country. And I believe that voters in Scotland have got a critical role to play in this. Well, they do, by getting rid of the SNP. There probably a lot of Labour seats will go, it's undoubted. Let's be honest. Can't deny reality and all. But there's no way Labour will ever touch the SNP with a barge pole. He is done. He's missed. The irony is, he was already yesterday's man before he got the job. When they announced it was going to be Swinney the next leader, and everyone was going, nah, caretaker. He was already gone before he sat down. That seat isn't his seat. He's just keeping it warm for Flynn or Sturgeon. Who knows? I still think Sturgeon's on her way back, you know. Anyway, we'll round off there. We'll come up and we'll finish the video. So, 42 days to go, one day in, and the SNP are royally screwed. Not just by one party, but by two. It's cracking, isn't it? This is what it's going to be like all the way through. So definitely hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, and I will bugger off now and speak to you later. More to come. Keep an eye out. Thanks a lot. Bye.